Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of Spilled Milk. For those tuning in on YouTube, you will see we have not one but two guests. Emily is back, and her sister Sarah. And hope you guys enjoy, and we'll just get right into it.
We're debating some shit today. Okay, first question. This is kind of like intense, but does male and female parenting strictness work the same? And I guess like while we're on the topic, we can just kind of talk about the differences and like the effect that a father versus a mother has, maybe.
Ooh, that's really swinging out of the gates there.
Yeah, coming in hot.
I think if you have a mean parent, like it's gonna affect the kid in a negative way,
Probably, yeah.
regardless of if it was mom or dad.
I guess, do you think that like mothers and fathers offer different things to their kids? Do you think that one parent can make up for like the difference of the other?
I don't know if it's necessarily make up for it, but I think you can build a better relationship with one parent over the other, depending on how the other one is.
It's kind of tough because like when I was younger, when my parents weren't like married, like it was very strictly like one and then very strictly the other. So like I feel like one was lacking in one sense. I don't know. Not lacking. Lacking's the wrong word, but
I think it depends on the family, of course, but like I feel like a mother's strictness has a different effect on the child depending on who the child is than a father's strictness. Like I feel like a mother's strictness is often viewed as like, God, my mom's such a bitch, she's like always nagging at me, like she's always telling me what to do. And then there's like a father's strictness, it's like I'm afraid of my dad, like he's so harsh.
That's
like
yeah.
I don't want to disappoint my dad, I'm gonna like get my shit done because my dad told me I have to do it, you know. Like they could have different effects, but it depends on the family, of course. And it depends on how the kid views their parents. Like if in general you view your mother as like you have a high respect for your mother, then your mother's strictness will be equally effective. But if not, then you're gonna be like, God, my mom's a bitch. Like she's always on my case.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. It's kind of hard because it's like everyone has different parents and you see your parents differently. Because I feel like there's definitely some dads that like slack and like aren't disciplinary, for lack of better terms. You know what I mean? Like sometimes your mom, like people's moms are like the one. Like you don't want to piss your mom off, but then vice versa. You don't want to piss your dad off. So I think it's kind of subjective. But I don't know.
I also have like some follow-up questions. Like the first one, it's like, say you were to have an absent father and an absent mother, do you think like it would feel the same to have, like, say you could put yourself in the situation where one, you have a mother but no dad, and then a dad with no mother, do you think that absence would feel the same? And I was also going to ask if do you think like gender matters? Like do you think there's a different relationship between like a father and his son versus a father and his daughter, and same with like a mother?
So the first one, I have no idea. I don't know what it's like to like not have a parent. So that one's kind of null for me.
I feel like it would be different though. I also have both parents, but I think it would be different to not have a mom rather than not have a dad.
Yeah.
I think for me personally, because my father passed away, and I think that absence has been really hard for me, but it's also different, and it's like it's really fucking hard for me to imagine not having my mom, because I think it also just, even when my dad was still alive, I was much closer with my mom. So I think that plays a big effect too, but I do still think it would be different, because I do think that parents offer very different things, and maybe it's not based on gender, because I think it would be similar if you had like maybe like two dads or two moms or something. They're just different people, so you know they're gonna parent you in different ways.
Yeah. What was part 2 to your question?
Like, is there a difference in the dynamic between like a father and his son versus a father and his daughter, or like a mother and her son versus a mother and her daughter?
Yeah, so much. Oh my gosh. Yeah, 100%. Me and Maddie's relationship with our dad is like totally different. It's a way different relationship, and vice versa with my mom and my sister. I don't know why.
I think most of the time there is the difference, but I would say it's mostly family dependent. Because I could see like different dynamics with different families of father son, father daughter. Like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that those very different, like, son and mother or like son and father, I think that those relationships are only really different if you have both parents and both parents take on different roles. Because like, for example, if there's a single dad and he had a daughter and a son, I think that his relationship with both of them would be like kind of similar, versus like if you had a dad and a mom and a daughter and a son, their relationships with those two would be kind of different, just because the mother is like there to be more like, I don't know, like have a more feminine relationship with her daughter. But like if there isn't a mother present to have a more feminine relationship with her daughter, then the daughter is gonna have the same relationship with her dad as her brother does. Anyway, sorry, that was a really long-winded explanation. You know what I mean?
No, you're good.
Like, putting myself in the shoes of a single dad, I feel like I would raise a son and a daughter very similarly.
I agree.
I also feel like in my experience, and I think I have a lot of girlfriends who feel the same, it's weird because I feel it was so much more effortless for me to be close with my mother, but at the same time, I feel like mother-daughter relationships can be so fucking hard. And I don't really know why that is. Maybe it's because you're like so similar, or like you can be so similar. But then at the same time, like I feel like it can be really hard to have a good relationship with a father as like a daughter, but in like a different way. But I feel like I was just so much more different from my father personally. I don't know, but I also think just like any kind of relationship with a parent is like, it can be really difficult. Yeah, definitely.
Like, looking back on how I was as a kid, I would fucking beat my own ass. If I was a kid.
Yeah, but I also feel like on the other hand, it's like sometimes it can be hard to just be a kid and like know what your parents really want from you and what they expect from you, and feeling confident that you're doing the right thing to make them proud. It's like both of you are just like kind of in this experience for the first time together, and you're like trying to figure out, but like nobody really knows the right way to go about it. I just think family relationships in general are tough. This one is still kind of relevant to the family topic, but is sibling rivalry or friendly competition healthy?
I don't know. I've been dealing with it a lot with my sister, and it's very hard to not compare yourself. But I feel like it's very unhealthy to compare yourself because we're in two very different like situations, even though on paper our situation is the same. You know?
Is that what sibling rivalry is? Comparing yourself to your siblings?
I think so, and like trying to, I don't know, maybe be equal to each other or be better than the other.
Like, that's a good question for us, but I can't answer it. Like, for example, I jokingly compare myself to my siblings, and I'm like, I'm the least successful sibling, and like they're doing so much better than me. Like, they're at least somebody can make our parents proud. But I don't truly believe that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna stop fucking around just because they have it together, you know?
Yeah.
But I guess it depends on the family, and like, if my parents were really like, you better get your shit together, you're only successful if you're making this much money, then maybe if my parents were less accepting, I'd be like, God, I'm really a failure compared to my other siblings.
I feel like what you described with your siblings, though, is like what I view as healthy competition. I think when it becomes unhealthy when you feel the need to change what you are doing and what you want to be doing solely because of what they are doing.
Yeah, that makes
But I it's also hard for me because I just by nature feel like I am not a competitive person at all. I just feel like everyone in my life, we're all so different from each other that it's not comparable. Especially like when you have different interests and want to do different things with your life. It's like, how do you measure if you're equal or not? If you're doing something completely different, like, is that based on like how much money you make or something like that? Because I don't think that really matters. Like at the end of the day, because like, what if you both make a really good salary, but one still makes like more? Like, what difference does that fucking make?
Mm-hmm.
I think at the end of the day, it's like how it's dependent on how the parents get, right? If your parents are comparing yourself to your siblings or other kids, like growing up, I was compared to other kids academically a lot, and I hated that.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, in like any other sense, like money wise, if I don't have as good of a job as my siblings or my peers, I don't want to be compared to them in a way, because I'm at the end of the day, I'm me.
Yeah.
I do think in terms of non-sibling relationships, if you're just talking about friendly competition, I do think for the most part that can be really healthy, because I'm like a strong believer that like surrounding yourself with people, like successful people who are like good at things, is like the best way to motivate yourself to do better things. So like when I think of friendly competition, I'm trying to think of a good healthy example. Like if Sarah and I were like, let's see who can run the most miles this week, and like we're gonna see who can do the best. Like that's great. That's like a great way to motivate yourself to do better. You're like trying to beat this person, trying to see if you can do better. But there's no consequence.
Yeah.
Like it's not like you only ran 5 miles this week, you lazy bitch.
Yeah.
Like, but there's no, I don't know. It's just like a healthy way to like compete in a way that's the only goal is to make each other better. I think that's great.
And I think like back to what you said earlier about how like how you guys interact with each other, and how I feel like it's good because it doesn't change your behavior. I think it's also important to make sure in those situations, like even if you fall short of the other, that it's not like really negatively impacting the perception that you have of yourself. And like being like, it's okay to acknowledge that I could do better next time and I can be better, but like I'm still good the way that I am.
This is a question. This doesn't necessarily have to do with this, but I just thought about it. So just say you all are married, and you are bringing in $100,000 a year.
Married to each other?
No. Like you and your significant other are married, and you bring in $100,000, and they bring in $50,000. So total, you bring in $150,000, right? Would you have any like comparison or like resentment towards them for that, since you're bringing in the majority of the money, or no?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So you are married, you're making $100,000 a year, your spouse is making $50,000 a year. So you're making double what they're making. Would you have any like comparison or resentment towards that, since your lifestyle or your income has kind of aided your lifestyle more than your spouse's? Would you compare that, or like think that it's fair, that it's not fair, you know?
I have an answer on that, but does anyone else want to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. I think it's all about the balance that you guys create amongst yourselves. I think that if you're going, I do think that like if you're making more, like that being equal and being fair might mean that you pay more, but you just keep it like proportionate to what you make, you know? But I also think that attitude plays a part in that too. It's like, is this person expecting so much more from me because I make
That's
more?
true.
Or do they still very willingly want to make a contribution?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important to consider.
That's fair.
I think it starts becoming a problem when they like blow all of the money that you're making on
Yeah.
stupid shit.
Yeah. That they're not necessarily making. Would you guys combine your bank accounts and all of your income, or no?
I think there should be 3 separate accounts. One for yourself, one for your spouse, and one joint account.
I agree.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So then how is the money distributed? Like where is it going? Say you're making 150,000 a year combined, and you have 3 accounts. Is it 50-50-50 or? Because me personally, I think if you get married, everything, well, there's multiple accounts, but everything that you make goes into one account, and then you kind of shoot it around based off of like food and needs and wants and all that sort of stuff, right? Because like I'm making 100 and Mary's making 50. In my mind, we make 150.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how I think about it is like I think there's one joint account. Obviously, that's where like your house, your rent, your mortgage, regardless, right? And then you spread it out and you kind of each can do whatever you want. But like, I personally think it's like our money now. And that's just my thought.
I think in my eyes, you take chunks of each one of your income and put it in the joint. That's the money that you spend there.
Mm-hmm.
But you still have your money.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I do too.
That's what I would do. It just feels weird to me to have to like if you had a joint bank account, let's say, like you both put all of your money, let's say, into one bank account, and like I wanted to go buy an $8,000 mountain bike, I would have to be like, is it okay if I buy an $8,000 bike?
Yeah.
Like, are we okay with this purchase? Instead of me having $8,000 in my bank account and being like, I'm gonna buy a bike because this is my money and I can do whatever I want with it. It's just like a weird extra step where you like
That's fair.
have to check that your partner's also okay with it. Which I guess I personally just think that you shouldn't, like, I wouldn't want to ask my partner for
Permission,
like a financial,
almost.
financial permission.
That's fair. That's fair.
I have a question for like in response to like purchase, what you said, how you would split it up. I don't know if you already said this, but for the like joint account and the individual accounts, is it for the joint one? Is it that like you're both putting in the same amount even if you don't make the same amount?
So, depending on how large the gap is.
Mm-hmm.
If it's like a really big gap, then the person making more would probably put more in.
Yeah, and I agree with that because like I think like a complete 50-50 split is always like great, but in situations where there is a big gap, like I don't know, I just feel like if you're choosing to spend your life with someone, like you should, like it's okay if you like give a little bit more, but that's just like how I feel about money personally.
My thought is like if you're making more, wouldn't you want to spend some of that on that person though too? You know? My thought is like you both, whatever you make goes into one account, and then you can send it to like your own individual account if you want to, right? For both of them, but like if one person makes $1,000 and one more makes $2,000, the $3,000 total goes into one account, and then you don't necessarily split it 50-50 because some of it's going to be used for stuff, but like what if your rent's $1,500? Well, then you only have $1,500 left. Because at that point, then your $2,000 that you put in, if you're making more, is only $750 now. Because a lesser portion of your income is going to that, but you only have so much left over. Because I've seen both sides of it, and it's weird.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Because like my parents, on my dad's side, they have like one account, but they have like 2 different cards for the one account. But it's all their money like combined, you know. And then on the other side, my mom and stepdad, they like everything goes into one account and they both have access to it, but they also both have their own like individual accounts just from previous. I mean, they were 40 something when they got married, so they already had these pre-existing bank accounts, you know, but everything was like eventually merged but then dispersed. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
I don't know if I totally like grasped the point of what you were saying, but I think in the situation where say you have like the 3 separate accounts, like a joint and then 2 individuals, I do think that it's okay for the person who makes less to be left with a little bit less in their own account if they make less. And I do think it would be like courteous, again, if the gap is really large, for the person who makes more to put more towards their joint one. But I also think it's okay if there's still more in their individual as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I think it's all about like the relationship and how you guys feel and like whatever agreement you come to. Like if you think it's fair, you think it's fair.
Yeah.
And I just happen to be someone who thinks like like complete equality does not always mean you have to be like completely equal.
Mhm. True. Fair. Fair.
Any other thoughts?
No.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the like love debates. Okay. So the first one, are online relationships real?
Hell yeah. Why not? Let them, if they're having fun, why not? How online are they?
Chronically.
Say they like
100%.
they met online, they have not yet met in person, but they've been in a relationship for however long.
I mean, I still think you need to kind of sack up and like go see each other.
Yeah. But look, can I say something?
But
Yeah.
Before we move on in this topic, the connotation of what you said they met online and they've not met in person yet implies that one day they're going to meet in person. But what if it's like 100% online?
Yeah.
And like they're never going to meet in person.
Yeah.
The whole
Let's-
thing is 100%.
Let's
online.
debate that.
I don't think that it would. I mean, if they're never gonna meet, I don't think that would ever work. That's just
Yeah.
me.
But what
I-
does work mean?
Mhm.
Like,
Long-term success and happiness. Because if you live in New York and your significant other lives in California, like what's the realistic long-term success of that relationship? Because you guys are living two completely separate lives. And that's just I don't know.
What if you really just don't want to be in the same room as someone?
And
maybe
that's
that
fair.
works perfectly for
Yeah.
you know? Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like,
That's fair.
like it depends on what you want out of the relationship. Like for some people, a partner is not like a person to like spend physical time with, but like just a person to chat with. You know, to like talk about your day or whatever, and they do not have to be in the same room to be able to talk about that, or like to get advice from someone, or you know, tell them about your feelings or whatever. Like you totally don't have to be in the same room to do that. It's crazy.
Fair.
But then,
Very fair.
But then if it's like you're always wanting to meet in person or something,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like for example, I have a friend that I talk to every day, and I met him playing video games. I know his name and I know like all about him, but I've never met him, and I don't necessarily not have the intention to like meet him. Like it would be cool if I could meet him, but I'm not gonna go out of my way to go to fucking Midwest USA, Indiana
Yeah.
to meet this guy.
No.
I'm not driving
meet this
through fucking
random
8 hours
dude.
of
If
corn.
he watches this, is he gonna be like, damn it?
He's like, damn it, Purge is
Yo,
never
he-
gonna come see me.
He brings it up.
Yeah. Like it would be
He's
cool
brought
if
it
I
up.
could meet him, but like I'm not going to fucking his shitty state
Yeah.
to meet him.
What if he came
But
out
it's
here
like-
to meet you though?
But I still have like a great relationship with him, and like we're
Yeah.
great friends, and I've
Yeah.
never met him.
But I mean, I think that's important that you bring that up because it's like the fact that even if you have no intention to meet, like, does that mean that you're less friends? Like,
No, not at all.
because I don't think it does. And I think, like, I agree with Austin's take in the sense of like, for me personally, that would not work for me because I am not someone who would be able to handle never meeting somebody.
Yeah.
But like you said, like, I do think that is totally fine for people, and that like there's also like there's people who are asexual, like they don't want any like. And that's like mainly sex wise, but like they don't want that. And like there are going to be people who like don't feel the need ever to like be physically present. They don't need to be touched. They don't need to hug you or whatever. They just like want the comfort of somebody else. And you can totally get that from just talking to someone.
That's fair.
This question made me think about relationships for like differently abled people, like a person who can't see, who has never seen their partner. That's like a really interesting thing to think about. Like you would never say that a blind person's relationship is less valuable because they've never seen their partner, you know? So that's like, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
But having never met your partner because you've never seen them in person and you only talk to them online, I guess doesn't affect the value of the relationship at all.
There's just so many different relationship dynamics out there. Like there are so many ways these days, especially as we get more comfortable talking about it, in which relationships can be so unconventional and outside the norm. And it's just like, I think for all of those types of relationships, it's just like, it might not work for you, but it works for them, and they're both happy and they're both getting their needs met from this person. And that is what a relationship is about.
True. True that.
I couldn't do it though. I'm needy.
No, I'm with you too. I couldn't do it. Like your whole relationship, you don't see them. That would suck, in my opinion. That's just me.
Me too. Any final thoughts? Last words? Okay. Next love question. Is love dependence on another?
I think I'm confused by the
like is that what the definition of love is? That you just like are dependent on one another?
I hope not.
Yeah, no, I'm with Sarah. I hope not. I think you should be able to find love in things outside of a relationship. Like I love Thin Mints. Right? And in that circumstance, right?
Okay.
Like it's like I don't like need Thin Mints to like feel love.
I would hope not.
Okay.
But
Interesting take.
it's like just like an interesting comparison that like your love for like food though is like different than like,
well, like I mean I can love a food, but I don't need the food to feel love and to be happy and like to be content. And you could just replace Thin Mints with a person. Like you can feel love with another person, but you shouldn't necessarily need another person to be able to feel love.
But if there was no one else in the world, I would not be able to feel loved. Like if Thin Mints didn't exist, you couldn't love Thin Mint.
True.
Yeah, but you can love someone after they die.
Yeah.
I could love bananas instead.
I feel like we are off the rails.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'm confused.
But
I'm confused.
Like if I had no perception of what another person was, I wouldn't be able to love another person. Right?
Yeah.
So
I guess
like
yeah.
I would need someone else to feel love either way, feel loved or to love them.
Are you talking about the dependence thing?
Yeah.
So maybe you're just
Are you
saying
talking about, like,
it
physical
depends
dependence?
on whether there's another person. Whether you can love them or not.
Sure.
Okay.
So the question is do you need another person to? I guess I'm confused.
Okay,
now.
well, here's my take on it, and I might be interpreting it wrong. But I think that there is a certain level of dependence that you have on a partner in order to love them. And I think that that's okay. What is not okay is to like be codependent on them. And like you said, with your Thin Mints, to like rely on them to feel loved. But I do think that your partner should be someone that you can depend on. And that, you know, like, yeah, if shit hits the fan, like they're going to be here, they're going to help me clean it up. Like I can depend on them in an emergency. I can depend on them for emotional support. But it, like you said, it is not a full, complete, total dependence where like you need this person to function. But I think that dependence is a part of love, but that is not what love is alone.
Yeah, I would say like love has nothing to do with dependence, but relationships do. Like I think you can really be in love with someone who like you're not in a relationship with, but to make a relationship work, there are things where you
Yeah.
In general, my initial reaction to that question, if love equals dependence, that is wrong. You're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
I also think, Kendall, what you were talking about is like
It's like reliance.
Yeah. Well, maybe not like dependence on a person, but trust in a person was the word that came to mind about what you said. But
I just am
nothing
thinking
more.
of like the saying like I can depend on you. And I mean you can depend on someone for a lot of different things. But I think that like it's like obviously different from trust, but it's like similar. It's like a similar idea.
Because you could like if you use the word dependence separately, like I can depend on my coworkers because they're super dependable people. Like, they
Mhm.
just, I can always trust that they're going to be on time to work and they're, like, going to work hard when they're at work. But that doesn't mean I love them, you know?
But that's my point was, like, dependent, like, love is independence, but dependence is a part of love. Like, it's not everything. There are so many things that define love. I just don't think love is one thing.
Yeah, totally. I thought that was a good summarization that Sarah made, that you need in a relationship. But, like, love isn't that what a relationship needs that.
But do you feel like you can love somebody that you don't depend on at all?
Yeah. I feel like that might suck, but you can. Like, you might be like, I am deeply in love with this person, but they're deeply unreliable or something like that. I just think it comes down to, like, you can't choose who you love. Yeah.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I guess I just think that it's something, I guess I'm taking the question very specifically for, like, relationship kind of love rather than, like, friendships or whatever, but like, I do feel like in a romantic relationship, like, say someone that you want to marry, like, I don't feel like I could love them if I don't depend on them, or I can't depend on them, I guess. But, like, I don't know, I just feel like I view, in this kind of context, I view love and, like, partnership very hand in hand with one another.
Cool. I don't like that question.
Yeah.
It's like I don't like the way it's worded, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Wait, that's the one you put in here.
I know. Sorry.
It's okay. Okay. These are kind of subwaying into more, I guess, like, social type.
Did you say subwaying?
Did I?
You literally said
Subway.
You're gonna subway in.
Cute though, actually.
Subway into the next topic.
And get off
I
it.
meant segue, guys.
The next stop is.
Next stop is social issues. Okay. I like this question. You also added this one. Why is it so easy to overlook the mass suffering in the world? It's kind of heavy. But
Whoa.
I think it's important to think about. I think this is a good question.
I think it's like an empathy thing. Lack, like, the feeling, or like they don't know what it feels like to be part of the suffering. And I don't know. I just feel like they can't feel it, so they don't feel bad.
I think that's, like, exactly it.
Like, what is one individual, in one of us gonna do to end the mass? Because it's kind of unrealistic. For one person, there's certain people that could, right? But, like, for the average person to end the mass, I feel like is possible, but unrealistic.
I mean, but the question is just, like, why is it so easy for people to just not care about it? Like, they don't necessarily, like, have to be going out of their way to, like, solve all the world's problems.
Yeah.
But, like, why don't they care? And I think with, like, lack of empathy, it also goes to just, like, ignorance. I feel like people don't educate themselves. They don't go out of their way to understand the reality of other people and less fortunate people. And it's just, like, I feel like a lot of people have that mindset of just, like, if it doesn't affect me, like, why would I concern myself with that?
Which
but
makes
I don't
sense,
get why they're like that.
It's stupid. It makes sense, but it's a stupid.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that also
understanding,
goes back to, like, what Perch said. Just, like, they lack empathy.
Yeah, they just don't care enough.
I do think, though, Austin, what you were saying is also an answer to this question. Is like I know that I will not ever be able to end, like, world hunger, let's say. And so it's not a thought that often crosses my mind, because every time it does, it's an overwhelming thought, so I put it away.
Yeah. Like, how could you do it today? And you're like, well, I don't know. And then you're like, well.
So you just look past it because there's, like, more immediate problems in your life to solve that you could possibly solve. But that's, like, that's too big.
Yeah.
So I feel like people just push those away. I also really think, like you were saying about ignorance, it is so hard to like even begin to understand. Wait, what was the question? Mass suffering.
Yeah, like why is it so easy for people to not care about mass suffering?
Yeah, and like to overlook it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's just because they're not aware of it. Like I'm aware that there are a lot of people dying, for example, in a lot of different ways around the world, not just from hunger or from war or whatever. But if I don't like directly see it every day, or like a person in my life didn't die from
like desensitization.
Yeah, kind of. But it's just like if there's no direct line to my life,
yeah,
then it's like really easy to not.
You can't relate to it.
Mm-hmm.
I've also come across a lot of people, I don't know if you guys have, but where it's like whenever they hear something really horrible, like in the news or a story that someone's telling them about something that's really, really tragic, I've met a lot of people where it's just like, they just cannot handle it. Like, they're just like, it's so upsetting to them that they would rather just not hear about it at all. But I also just like don't understand that perspective, because it's like, I guess it's kind of like the same question. It's just like, why are you able to just like, but it's like clearly they care about it. Like, that's why they're upset by it. But like, why, how can you just be like, it's just annoying to me, because it's like, that is somebody's reality. And just you hearing it is too much for you. I don't know.
Yeah, because they don't get to be like, this is too much. I can't handle it right now. They don't get to walk away from it. They can just, like, it's their own life. They don't get a choice about whether to deal with it or not. I see your point.
But I think, like, it was kind of, I think I was maybe not the most relevant. The desensitization thing wasn't as relevant to the point you're making. But I do think that is, like, another thing, especially when a tragic thing in the world keeps happening on repeat. Like, it's just like, oh, like, again, like, it's not going to be solved anytime soon.
Circling back to what I said before, I also think that people are just like overly preoccupied with their own life. Like, I'm gonna go off topic a little bit, but I had this thought the other day that the reason huge major issues in the world don't get resolved is because people like recede into their own life. Like, you know how if you think of like a typical American middle class family, like the general trajectory of a life is like to find a partner and stay with them forever, ideally, and like create a family with them. And when that happens, your entire world, like everything you care the most about in your life is within that tiny unit. And it's so hard to look outside of it. Like, all you care about is making sure that this little unit is like okay.
Yeah.
And so nobody, like, and it's not necessarily their fault. It's like a human instinct to take care of the people that you're like closest to, especially like your children, especially. And so people just stop looking past that. The vast majority of people, like in the US, let's say, for example, have that family structure, and so they don't go outside of it to solve other like bigger issues.
Totally.
I think that's crazy.
Yeah.
And like everybody keeps doing it, and it's like a cycle. And then things keep not changing.
Do you think there's like a cultural aspect to that? Just how our society is too, though. Like beyond just human nature. Because I feel like, especially like here, like that is like, I don't feel like that is necessarily the exact like trajectory. Yeah. I cannot fucking speak right. Of life like everywhere, but I do feel like here that is like. So I feel like a lot of times like people don't want to be that way, but it's like they don't know how to be any other way, and they feel like they won't be accepted if they do anything different.
Like there's a lot of other cultures in this world where that family unit, like our family unit typical that we have here is like you and your parents and your siblings, and that's your family unit, whatever. But there's a lot of other cultures where you don't marry a spouse, move away from your family to start your own family. like a lot of other cultures, their family all stays together. Like everybody raises the kids together. Everybody's like a big, large connected unit, and like has a bigger community around them. And I feel like if like that's a situation where like everyone is looking out for everyone instead of like just within their inner circle, and like that's a situation where it would be easier to see other parts of life than like just your little unit.
I agree. Thoughts in this corner. Thoughts in this corner.
THOT thoughts.
THOT thoughts.
I just my direct answer to that question, like how it's easy to not care, is just that it's easy to be distracted.
Yes.
By your own shit. Like who isn't caught up in their own shit, you know? I think it's hard to like, I have to like sit down and like work to put myself in someone else's shoes, you know? And it's like, there's time for that, which is fucked up. But it takes like emotional work to really feel that and not care, but like to try to understand it. Yeah. It's like,
that being said, then, do you believe that there are people out there who genuinely don't care? Like, even if they took the time?
Yes.
So then why do you think they're like that? The ones who, like, genuinely do not care. Like, even if you force them to sit down and really think about it.
I don't know. I find that hard to understand because I think of myself as pretty, like, passionate and empathetic, and I couldn't have someone sitting down in front of me suffering and not feel, you know, very emotional about that. So it's hard for me to even think about not caring. Like, I don't know how to answer that. I just think people, it's the people who can't empathize.
I think those people like that are like, and I would, like, this is so fucked up, but I would love to see them in that situation.
Yeah.
Just for one day, so they know how it's felt.
Or I mean, is there really a not caring? Or are you intentionally trying to go against the grain and be like, I don't give a shit, even though everybody else does? You know? I'm trying to think. I'm just trying to imagine what kind of person like really doesn't care, and do they genuinely not care, or is it like an act or an avoidance?
Maybe there's like a sociopath.
I have a thought about that. Because the other day I was having a conversation and I was like, oh my god, I just cannot look at an old person who is out in the world alone and not, like, it makes me want to cry immediately, no matter what they're doing. I just feel, I don't know how to describe the feeling, but I feel like sad for them. I feel like maybe they're lonely and I want them to not be lonely, or I want them to like be healthier or happy or something. I don't know what it is. And this other girl was like, fuck old people. They're all assholes. I do not care about them. I see an old person eating alone. Fuck them. They probably have done bad shit in their life. I have no reason to feel bad for them. And so I feel like part of it is seeing the good in people and seeing the bad in people. Like, some people are like, that person has no reason to have my sympathy. Like, I bet that person has been an asshole before. I have no reason to immediately assume that they're a good person and that they deserve any type of consideration from me. And I had never thought about that before. But I'm like, that old guy maybe he's alone because he's a dick. Yes. You know? But I never think about that.
But it also makes me think from like her perspective, it's like maybe she was like fucking traumatized by something. But then it's also hard because like that situation specific is like difficult for me because I think I used to feel that way too, where if I saw them alone, it made me really sad. But I also kind of reached this realization where I was like, maybe they're like fine, like maybe they're just eating out alone, like on an afternoon, you know.
Patronizing to be like,
they need my help.
They need my help, you know, like that's not okay. So I think there's a balance to it, but it isn't. I've never really given that much thought either. It's like, in the same way that this person could need help and be lonely, they could also be a dick. Like, because it's like people are just people, but that means both things.
I think about that shit all the time with old people. All the time. Because sometimes there's like you see an old guy at a coffee shop. It's like, well, maybe he's just getting coffee by himself because his wife or daughter, son, whatever, just didn't want to come. Or it's like the flip of, it's like, if you are alone, what did you do to be alone? Because then, especially with boomers, they complain about it a lot. Like, oh, my family never comes to see me, or I do this and that. It's like, but why does none of your children want to talk to you? Is it there a chance your kids are dicks? Yes.
Every single one of them?
But every single one of them, and if you really break it down, if they all are, where do you think they learned that?
Yeah.
Not trying to be that guy, but like, I'll be that guy with those scenarios. Because it's just like, no way you're going to complain about not seeing your kids for 5 years. Why have you not seen your children for 5 years? And because you can't just say like, oh, they just don't want to see me. Because then it's the easy answer, but it's like, why don't they want to see you? They don't want to see you because of, or maybe the dude's just wanted a hot chocolate, so he just went and did. He's been inside his house for 7 straight days because he's an old dude. He doesn't do anything. Maybe he just wanted to go get a coffee.
Or he used to go there with his wife, and his wife died.
Okay, I wasn't trying to go there. I was gonna say that, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I get it.
Because like, there's probably some old people that go out every Thursday night because that's where they went, for dinner, and as far as you know, they died a week ago. And then you're just like, oh, I'm a dick.
Also, alone does not equal lonely, and we
That's
all
very
know
true.
that in our own lives. Like, I love going to the gym alone, more than with a person, and it doesn't make me lonely or sad. So why is it so hard to understand that about other people?
Literally, though. Literally.
Anything else about that? About old people?
I don't think so.
Or just about the original question, and
Which was?
about the look why is it easy to overlook?
Oh, yeah.
The mass
I'm
suffering.
sorry, I turned mass suffering into the old
Until old people. Somehow we got to old people.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. We subwayed into it. Okay. Well, I have 2 more questions on kind of like the same social aspect kind of questions. Are we born with prejudices, or do we learn it? Is that the plural of prejudice? Prejudice.
Prejudice.
Prejudices.
My initial
Prejudice.
reaction was absolutely we learn it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
I don't think you're necessarily born with it. When you're a child, you pick up on little things based off of what's around you in your environment. What you see, what you hear.
Yeah.
And you're a product of your environment.
Yeah. I don't think there was a single person on this earth that was born with prejudice.
No. Definitely not.
We've talked about this before, but this makes me think about it. Because I know Purchase danced on this, but when it comes to like psychopaths and like really, really scary, dangerous people like serial killers and shit, it's like, is that nature, or is that a genetic thing? Is that a biological thing? Or like, did trauma in their life cause that? Did their parents cause that? Like, did some outside force cause that?
I have a tendency to believe that people who turn out in such a way like that, like for a serial killer, for example, that it was like their upbringing that made that happen, like a trauma that happened to them, even if it happened to them like when they were an infant, like before they even were a functioning person, things could happen to you. But I do think, like, I've learned at school that there's like certain things about your brain that can make a person more likely to become that way. But I do think that it mostly comes down to like what happens to you. Like that book, What Happened to You.
It's never what's wrong with you.
Yes.
Shout out.
Shout out Fred. And the other guy.
Yeah. I agree.
speaking of that though, really quick, I don't think this is necessarily like a prejudice thing. I don't think that you could say that a person like fresh out of the womb that they are going to be prejudiced about something. But it's really interesting the things that happen to like a freshly born baby or even an unborn baby. The things that happen to like things that happen around them, things that happen to them can like totally change or not change, but shape who they are as an adult. And that makes me think about the prejudice thing a little bit. I don't think that it's like a baby's gonna be a fucking racist because of something kind of that happened to them when they were like an infant. But I think that things that happened to them when they were an infant could potentially lead them to be the type of person who has thoughts like that. Like a person who has thoughts that like other people are against them, other people aren't safe. And like those kinds of feelings could lead to prejudice.
Yes. I agree. I agree.
So it's like a very long like path to get there. But I do kind of think that there's some like biological things that can make a person become prejudiced.
I would agree with you. Kind of bouncing back to the like psychopath aspect of it. I actually thought it was great that you brought up like trauma that happens when you are like a literal baby, because in my time like learning psychology and all that stuff in school, it's like I actually think those are some of the most impactful periods of your life, especially like and I know even like the ages like 5 to 7 is really fucking impactful. Just all of those stages, like even if you don't remember that shit, it physiologically changes you. And I've seen that firsthand with like people in my life. So that's actually interesting that you brought that up, and I feel like that because I've always kind of felt like there was a biological aspect to it, maybe like they were kind of born that way, not like all the time, but that makes me think like, yeah, like honestly I've never thought about it, like trauma that happens to you at that age could really fuck you up. I also think when it comes to trauma, like the duration of things, really like how long your trauma lasted could affect things and really like change your perception of reality. But I don't know, it's just also hard because it's like trauma is really difficult to think about because everyone experiences, I think, a little bit of it in their life, and everyone will experience it at different scales, but every situation is so different. And it's just hard because I just feel like there are so many people who get traumatized at different points of their lives and at different capacities, and they don't turn out to like that extreme of a person. So it's just like, I don't know, it's like, as part of me wonders, it's like, is that really like fair to just like put the fact that they turned out that crazy on like one or maybe like multiple things? Like even if their trauma is like really, really, really fucking horrific, it's just like, is it fair to just be like, that is why? I guess it just feels like it's like deflecting part of the blame, but it's like, and it's hard because like I feel like I'm one of those people who still like feels some level of like empathy for terrible fucking people, and I don't want to, but it's like, it is like, what happened to you? Like, and who knows, like maybe I could have turned out the same fucking way if I went through that. I don't know.
Yeah. Because I always think, wouldn't your life be easier if you weren't a serial killer?
Yeah.
Does anybody like, I mean, I know there are some people who want to be serial killers, but does anybody want to be a psychopath? Like, I don't think so. I don't think that anybody wants that for themselves. So it's like, there must be something out of their control that's making them that way. So I totally understand what you're saying. Because I also feel bad for horrible people.
Just because it's like, it's so clear, like they do not have empathy at all. And it's like, I don't know, it does kind of make sense to me that there could be a biological aspect to that. Just like the fact that you physically cannot feel empathy. And it could totally be the trauma thing. And it just happened really early on. But it's like, how do you, and it's hard because the brain is so like unknown, and we don't know a whole lot about it. So it's hard to test that. How can we ever be certain?
Sorry, I feel like me and Kendall we're really dominating the conversation. It's just what we do.
It's
can't
stop.
What did you say?
What?
Need to bring back lobotomies.
A quick fix.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I do have one more question if everyone is up for it. And I will not say anything.
Sure.
Is there a point where too much development, like for things like technology, like think like AI and shit like that, is a bad thing?
Yes.
Could you expand?
I think like everyone kind of has like the cliche sort of ideas of technology, like stuff, but there's also so many subtle ways. I don't know. I feel as a designer, my job is threatened daily
Yeah.
by AI. But I also like, I don't know. I think it comes down to like our responsibility, the way we use it, like. But it's also an incredibly helpful tool in so many ways. So don't want to shut it down. Like, I think there are pros and cons of it. Like, thing. I forgot the harmful or whatever.
Yeah.
All about balance and responsibility and all that.
Yeah. Ditto.
I think that goes with like anything in the world. Like if you have too much,
I think I don't think about the technology advancement thing in the sense of like, you know, like that movie Ex Machina where like there's like the robots that like turn against their owners or whatever, their creators. I don't ever think about technology advancement in that way, like it's gonna become evil, like take over the world kind of thing. But I do think about it as like it like takes humans further and further away from nature, like from the natural world, like our natural state of being, whatever. But then I also think like I had a biology teacher who would always tell us like don't fall for the appeal to nature fallacy that just because something is natural means that it's good. And his example was like, just because a woman is most fertile between the ages of 13 and 18, does that mean we should all be getting pregnant between 13 and 18? Like, no, we would not say. No one would say that, you know? So it's like, just because we're getting farther from nature, does that mean that it's a bad thing? Like, I personally think so. But I try not to fall for that trap. Like, Sarah and I have been having this crisis about at McDonald's you can't order from a person. Even if you go inside, you have to order on a touch screen. And like that's like a little bit crazy to me. First of all, I understand that it's like an awesome accessibility feature. Like it's a lot easier for a person maybe who like can't speak or like is disabled in some way to like get up to the touch screen and like touch what they want to order without like having to speak to a person maybe. That kind of thing. Like I totally really like that as like especially from like an accessibility standpoint, but I'm like, why can't I just talk to a human? Because it's just like I feel like it robs both people of an opportunity to like be nice to someone and like have a kind interaction with someone and make someone's day and smile at someone. Those kinds of things make me think that we're like heading in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
But I don't think that computers are going to take over the world.
I don't really think that either. And I think kind of going off of what you said, I think that when we take it too far, just like really far to that point where it's like technology is taking over jobs and stuff, I just feel like we're stripping ourselves of purpose, like us as humans. It's just like, and this is a very much more like emotional response to this question, but I also think about culture. And I think you talking about being a designer, I also feel that way as someone who is very big into like the creative world in a lot of different senses. And it's like, it breaks my heart to think about us reaching a point where our music, our art, everything that we do like that we are creating with our hands is now like just generated from technology. It's just like there's no real, even if it's like a good song or a beautiful work of art, it's like there's no human emotion or feeling behind it. It is like a script of something that was already like, and it's just like, it's not real to me. And I just think there's something so raw and organic and beautiful about us doing things on our own, even if it's like a shitty job. It's like I don't think many people are like stoked about like the idea of being like a cashier or something, but it's like, but it's still like, it's a human doing this, and it's your job, and it's just like something, I don't know. And then like suddenly you're not doing, and then will we reach a point where everywhere you go, it's just like you said, you don't interact with people. So like, then what do we do? Like, what do we fill our time with? What do we fill our days with? Everything is done for us now. And that just sucks to me.
Yeah.
And like Birch said, I just think literally everything needs to be done in moderation. Anything that you do too much of, it's just like, it ruins it.
Was that? I don't know. This is like not relevant, but like the Amish, are they like really happy without like technology?
Maybe.
I'm sure they have fulfilling lives.
I guess.
Especially because they don't miss it.
Right.
They don't know
Yeah,
like, what they're missing
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
on, you know? Like they're, you know, like, I guess like happiness is subjective, I guess you could say. Like they could be happy in their situation because they don't know that other people are happier because they can
Right.
watch Netflix
Right.
or whatever, like, you know. Well, that's a good point.
But I also feel like there are people who have experienced this stuff and choose to not live that way too. So just again, you don't know. But I also think like, and maybe it's just because I'm someone who grew up in a world of technology, but like I think technology, like Sarah said, is a great thing, and it's provided so many opportunities, and I feel like it's allowed people to be more educated, more connected, and it's given us the chance to like with online, back to the online thing, like interact with people nowhere near us that we would never get to just run into on our day-to-day lives. But it's just it is scary to me, the thought of just like us not doing anything anymore. It's just weird. I literally feel like it's like there's no purpose then in anything. Like we don't make our own art. We don't make our own like physical products of things. Like we don't drive our cars. We don't do we teach are we learning from robots? Like it's just like what? Then it's like what even is the need for us to be here and alive? Like let's just kill ourselves and make robots like of ourselves. Like it's just weird.
Yeah. But that also kind of makes me think like, couldn't they give us all a break?
Yeah.
Yeah. If we don't have shit to do, we can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
You know. So I don't know. There's like
there's good and bad.
There's two sides to every like part of this. Like I was just thinking, in one way, like technology threatens my job, but in another way, I completely rely on technology to do my job. So I don't know. There's like there's so many different ways to answer.
Definitely. You bring up so many good points, Sarah. You're so smart.
Thank you, Sarah, for your contribution. I'm having a moment right now thinking about this podcast because I was just thinking, we all probably listen to so many podcasts among us, and how frequently do you hear your friends be like, dude, I listened to this podcast the other day and I heard this awesome shit, let me tell you about it. And how infrequently do you hear your friends saying, I had the most interesting conversation the other day. Like everybody always says, I heard this in a podcast the other day. And it's like we're getting our like engaging conversation and engaging thoughts and like interesting whatever, like from a fucking podcast or from a YouTube video or whatever, instead of like from humans.
Yeah.
And I know there are humans behind it,
Yeah.
of course. But
weird.
oh my god. I don't know. And here we are making a podcast.
With technology. Technology.
We Googled controversial questions. Oh my god.
And I read them
Crazy.
from my phone.
we are doomed.
Yeah.
In summary.
We already have no function. Okay. Should we wrap it up?
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you both for being here. It was a pleasure. We hope you will be on again in the future. But we hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and we will see you next week for another one. Hope you had a happy Christmas or holiday of some whatever sort. Awesome. Okay.
Okay, bye.